Hello and welcome to the World Cement podcast with me, David Bisley, Senior Editor of World Cement. The Indian cement industry is one of the world's largest, second only to China in terms of production capacity, and all indicators point to it continuing to grow over the coming years. To talk me through how Indian producers are going to manage that rapid growth whilst overcoming supply chain and resource issues, all while decarbonising their operations, is Dr. S.B. Hegde, who has also produced the India-focused regional report for our February issue. Dr. Hegde has also published over 250 technical articles, holds multiple patents, and is Professor of Civil Engineering at Jain College of Engineering and Technology, India, and Visiting Professor at Pennsylvania State University, USA. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to register for World Cement. It's free of charge and gives you access to the latest issues of World Cement, both in print and online. Every issue comes packed full of regional analysis, technical articles, project case studies, and the latest industry news. Simply head over to worldcement.com, click the magazine tab, and register today. It's as simple as that. Happy reading. So, Dr. Hegde, welcome to the World Cement podcast. Delighted to have you with us and looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the state of the Indian cement sector.
Thank you very much, Mr. David, for inviting me to this global podcast. It is a privilege to share insights with the international cement community. I have spent more than 3 decades in the global cement and construction materials industry, working across Asia, Africa, and Southeast Asia in leadership roles, covering manufacturing, quality assurance, R&D, sustainability, and digital transformation. Along my side industrial career, I am a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering in Jain College of Engineering and Technology, Hubli, Karnataka, India, and also a visiting professor at Pennsylvania State University in the USA. This combination of industry leadership and academic research allows me to integrate operational experience with policy insights and forward-looking innovation. This holistic perspective shapes my recent analysis for World Cement and informs my views on India's evolving cement industry.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Now, as I mentioned in my opening comments, you've recently produced a report for the February issue of World Cement that provides a forecast for the Indian cement industry over the coming years. You begin this report by mentioning that Indian production capacity is set to rise from around 650, 670 million tonnes per year to as much as 850 and 920 million tonnes per year by 2030. And that's a significant increase. So what would you say are the biggest practical constraints to achieving that kind of growth?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question. India's planned expansion from about 700 million tons as of today to 850 to 920 million tons by 2030 marks an important phase in national industrial development. However, achieving this scale requires overcoming several constraints, as you are aware. The one major challenge is the regional imbalance in resources. The northern and western India face tightening limestone reserves and rising water stress, while the south has surplus clinker with utilization often around 50 to 55%. That means the kiln run hours. The logistics is another constraint. The flood-prone rail routes and limited wagon availability in the east push freight costs to 15 to 20% higher. The fuel volatility also impacts the margins. India imports around 12 to 14 million tons of pet coke, and prices spikes in 2025 reduced profitability by 20 to 3%. Regulatory clearances can add 12 to 18 months to project timeline showing capacity deployment. Based on my experience with AI integrated supply chains in Africa and Asia Pacific, India will need around 1.2 trillion Indian rupees in targeted capex and stronger policy alignment through Prime Minister Gati Shakti Yojana to overcome these structural constraints.
Okay, thank you. The report also mentioned 3 main drivers of demand, primarily housing, infrastructure, and commercial / industrial construction. What trends are you expecting to see in these areas over the coming years, and which of them do you expect to be the biggest driver of demand growth?
India's cement demand is expected to grow around 6 to 7% annually, Mr. David, through 2030. Housing remains the largest contributor, about 65% of total demand, driven by PMAY's target of 1 crore urban homes, rising incomes, and strong rural construction momentum. The second one is the infrastructure. This is the most powerful growth engine with Indian rupees 11.21 lakh crore in capital outlay. India is seeing one of the largest infrastructure expansions globally after China in 2000. The projects like, the Bharatmala, Gati Shakti, dedicated freight corridors, and Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train projects, which alone consumes 20,000 cubic meters of concrete per day, are propelling demand. The commercial and industrial demand is rising too, driven by warehousing, renewable energy, and logistics parks. Overall, India's, the forecast to add 30 to 40 million tons of annual demand between 2026 to 2028, with infrastructure clearly emerging as the dominant force. This is the scenario.
One of the many issues facing producers around the world is overcapacity. And your report forecasts utilization rates in India rising to 80 or even 85%, up from around 70% today, which is quite high levels. What are the assumptions behind that forecast?
Our expectation that utilization will rise to 80 to 85% by 2030, which is based on strong alignment of supply and demand. The demand is growing by 30 to 40 million tons annually, while new capacity additions of 160 to 170 million tons will roll out in calibrated phases. The northern and eastern regions may soon operate at 80 to 90% capacity utilization, while the south will benefit from inter-regional clinker movement. Industry consolidation with the top 5 players in India controlling around 60% of the capacity improves pricing discipline and asset utilization. The digital transformation is equally significant. The AI-based kiln control, predictive maintenance have reduced downtime by 30 to 40%, pushing efficiency higher. With financial year 2025, the dispatches reaching around 453 million tons, the utilization trend is firmly positive. This is the situation forecast.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you've touched on this a little bit earlier, and it also comes up in your report. One of the weak points in the Indian cement sector is primarily fuel price instability and shortages of raw materials.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about that? And what are specifically the key challenges facing Indian producers in this regard?
The fuel price, which I mentioned earlier, is highly unstable, remains a critical risk. Volatility in imported coal and petcoke has reduced margins by 3 to 5% in recent quarters. The raw material challenges are intensifying. Limestone scarcity in the west, inconsistent fly ash from thermopower plants, slag demanding on steel cycles, and water shortages in arid regions are the main problematic areas. These factors create 5 to 10 operational inefficiency and could push annual CO2 emissions towards 177 million tons as demand reaches 670 million tons by decade's end. Similar trends in Latin America show that diversification and predictive planning are essential.
Okay. So following on that chain of thought then, how are Indian producers navigating these supply chain issues?
The Indian producers have demonstrated remarkable resilience. Alternate fuel usage has expanded rapidly. Many plants operate at 60 to 20% TSR percentage. The best performers reach around 45%.
Right.
The waste heat recovery systems now supply 25 to 35% of internal electricity.
Wow, okay.
The renewable energy capacity currently stands at 1.8 gigawatt, is expected to reach 6.8 gigawatt by 2030.
Wow, okay.
The AI-driven optimization is reducing energy use by 5 to 10% and stabilizing kiln performance. India is also, the reprocessing 45 million tons of alternate fuels each year, strengthening the circularity and reducing resource pressure. These innovations place India in the forefront of sustainable cement production.
Okay, excellent. And of course, we can't talk about the future of the cement industry without discussing the issue of decarbonisation. Let's start with something of an overview then. In broad terms, what does the Indian cement industry's path to net zero look like? What are the highlights on the roadmap, if you will?
India is, the fully aligned with the commitment to achieve net zero by 2070. The GCCA and TERI roadmap outlines a clear 8-lever abatement strategy. The most impactful is reducing clinker factor, expected to fall to 0.56 through PPC, Portland Pozzolana cement, Portland slag cement, that is PSC, and LC3, and calcine clays. Okay? The thermal substitution is projected to reach around 35%. I'm talking about the average of India in cement industry. Renewables will be around 50 to 60% by 2035, and WHRS will continue expanding. The carbon capture will contribute 20 to 25% of total reductions. India already has 5 CCUS test beds, and thermal efficiency is improving towards 705 kilocalories per kg. The roadmap positions India as a global leader in low carbon cement innovation.
One of the issues facing cement producers around the world when they're rolling out new greener cement products is generating market demand and consumer interest, because there can sometimes be reluctance to try new products. How are Indian producers getting their customers to adopt these greener products?
India has, a natural advantage in green cement adoption. The PPC and PSC, they are blended cements, already account for nearly 80% of the market, reducing emissions by 25 to 40% per ton. LC3 is being commercialized with early production around 2 lakh tons, and BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, also expected in 2026. The green procurement policies, the carbon pricing, and technical outreach to contractors and ready-mix producers are accelerating adoption. Sustainable cements are also growing at 7 to 8% annually, showing strong market acceptance.
Okay, thank you. And whilst there are many ways to reduce a cement plant's emissions, carbon capture is often cited as the ultimate technology, the final stepping stone for reaching net zero emissions cement production. Recent projects in Europe, like the Brevik facility in Norway, have required significant investment from government as well as from industry. What do you think will be necessary for carbon capture to become viable in India, and when do you expect this to be?
CCUS becomes viable in India when 3 enablers align. The first is the policy support. India's carbon market launching in 2026 will set a price that improves CCUS economies. The second is the cost reduction. The capture cost today stands at rupees 2,500 to 4,000 rupees per ton, and it needs to fall to rupees 1,500 to 2,000 in the coming months. The third is the infrastructure. The CO2 pipelines, industrial clusters, and utilization pathways like enhanced oil recovery, which yields $126 to 175 per ton. And India is making a strong progress if you see. The DST, the Department of Science and Technology, has commissioned 5 pilot plants in India, and Dalmia Cement at IIT Bombay, which has got around 100 TPD CCUS unit, is expected in 2027. By 2030, we will see the first commercial scale CCUS project in India, with major scaling after 2035.
Right, excellent. So not too far off then. That's excellent news.
It's going on very well.
Excellent. So to wrap things up then, as we bring this podcast to a close, what highlights from the Indian cement sector should we be looking out for over the coming years?
Yeah, according to me, the next decade will redefine India's cement sector. Okay, the capacity is set to expand by 160 to 170 million ton by financial year 2028. Infrastructure will continue driving 7 to 8% sales growth, and LC3 will become mainstream as large commercial plants start up. Hydrogen firing trials, currently at 7 to 10%, will expand. The CCUS will move from pilots to commercial deployment. The digital twins will become standard across major groups. And with strengthening trade agreements, India could account for 5% of global cement exports by decade's end. India is emerging as one of the world's most resilient, innovative, and sustainable cement markets, with lessons that can guide the global transition towards low carbon construction.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Hegde. Thank you for your time today and for sharing your insights into the Indian cement sector.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. David, for giving me an opportunity to share my views with the international cement producers and the leadership team. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And of course, thank you as always to everyone in the World Cement podcast audience. If you enjoyed this episode and want more, please make sure to like, review, and subscribe. We're now in our second year with many more great episodes due to come up over the coming months, and if this is your first time catching an episode, then make sure to check out our back catalogue of episodes from 2025 featuring leading cement producers, academics, and other industry stakeholders. They're all well worth a listen. That's all for now. Goodbye, and see you in the next episode. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you to register for World Cement. It's free of charge and gives you access to the latest issues of World Cement, both in print and online. Every issue comes packed full of regional analysis, technical articles, project case studies, and the latest industry news. Simply head over to worldcement.com, click the magazine tab, and register today. It's as simple as that. Happy reading.